As Sarah told you, my name is Jessica Davis, and I'm a senior editor at InformationWeek. One of the best parts of my job is that I regularly get to interview IT professionals, IT leaders, and CIOs. I get to hear all about the projects that they're working on, the challenges they face, and how they solve those issues. I get to hear about the really interesting projects, both with old technology and new technology. IT organizations have experienced a lot of change over the past few years. IT may be at the epicenter of disruption that's happening across industries today. Sure, IT has always served as the underlying infrastructure of enterprises. IT is the glue. Now, as companies look to convert technology into a competitive advantage, IT is also becoming a strategic force. The role of CIO has also become expanded. They've always been strategic, sure, but they still make sure the technology infrastructure is maintained while they're driving investment in these new technologies like machine learning and AI. And in the middle of this balancing act, CIOs are also the technology experts to the other C-suite executives. They're advisors to the board of directors. And let's face it, not all board members or executives are so tech savvy. They may not understand the limitations of a technology that's getting a lot of buzz out there. The CIO must also set realistic expectations with all these stakeholders about just what's possible with new technology and when it's possible. Tomorrow? In 6 months? It's a tough job. And that's why I'm so excited about the panel of CIOs that we have for you today. One from a city, one from a sports organization, and another from a technology company. They'll each be talking about an exciting project that they've been working on. So with that, I'd like to welcome on stage the CIO of Hitachi Vantara, Renee Lahti. We also have the CIO of the City of Detroit, Beth Niblock. Also, please join me in welcoming Jed Williams, CIO of the NCAA.
Perfect. Well, how are you guys doing this morning? That was really lame, guys. All right, come on. Yes, that's what I want to hear. Well, as Jessica said, my name's Jed Williams. I'm the CIO of the NCAA. And as you can already tell, I like to move around a bit. Before I talk a little bit about the technology initiative, I want to give a little bit of background on the NCAA in case you're unfamiliar with us. I hope most of you are familiar with us. We are the National Collegiate Athletic Association. We are responsible for college athletics across the United States. Most of you are probably familiar with us through our Division I men's basketball tournament, also known as March Madness, Final Four, the main cause of people pulling their hair out in March with your bracket. But at the end of the day, we are a membership-led association. We have over 1,200 colleges, universities, and conferences that make up our association. To put kind of the scope of what the NCAA does in perspective, if you look at, say, the NFL, they have 32 teams, they have a couple thousand players, and they have a couple thousand staff at their headquarters in New York City. The NCAA, we have over 19,000 teams, almost 500,000 collegiate student athletes, and we have around 500 folks as employees in our headquarters in Indianapolis, Indiana. So let's go a little bit into the initiative as to why I'm here. Starting a year and a half, 2 years ago, we undertook a significant data analysis project. We took our statistical database that has been running for decades, moved it to the public cloud. We then emphasized and looked at Division I men's basketball for the last 10 years. We looked at play-by-play data of over 360 teams, 20 to 30 games each year, the play-by-play data. We were able to pull significant data analysis and insights because of that. We found such hard-hitting insights, such as you have a greater chance for an upset when there's a full moon. Also, if your mascot is a feline, you also have a greater chance for an upset. We also found if your jersey number is number 1, you typically get more dunks. All right, so those are actually true. We actually did find that stuff out. We also found out actual predictive analytics. Well, let's just see the video real quick. All right, so I'm gonna be honest. I really just wanted to show a video of a raccoon in a shirt for you guys. All right, so that ad, we played in the halftime of last year's national championship game. That ad was based on the first half stats. So we had 10, 15 minutes to get the stats ready and sent out to go across the nation. And we were able to do that because of this initiative. Well, how did we do on that? You can see the stat that we showed on the commercial. We had our exact estimate. We estimated 24. The result was 24. We actually got that spot on. And so you can see our other results were very close, highly accurate. But what we've been able to do with this data analysis, obviously we now have predictive analytics. We then utilize machine learning on this data to help us replace a decades-old algorithm called the RPI, which the Basketball Selection Committee would use that RPI to compare different basketball teams when they're trying to get from 360 teams down to 64 teams. So we were able to replace the RPI with this analysis. We called it the NCAA evaluation tool, or NET. So now we have built-in machine learning, predictive analytics, helping the committee figure out who's going to make the top 64. We're also using these analytics to change the rules of basketball. A couple of weeks ago, we announced we have a committee looking at what would be the impact of moving the three-point line. What would that do to games? What would that do to scoring? So we've been able to fully leverage this initiative in a couple different ways. And I'm sure we'll be discussing a little bit more of that in depth during the panel discussion. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Beth Niblock. I'm the Chief Information Officer for the City of Detroit, and I'm honored to be back again this year. I wanted to talk about a challenge that we face in the city. And this was our mayor's innovation challenge. So he put some money up for departments to work together to come up with an innovative solution to a problem. So the problems or challenges that we were facing in Detroit was that our physically built environment was changing on an almost daily basis sometimes. We didn't know where our assets were, so our Department of Public Works didn't know where their stop signs, crosswalks, all those kinds of things that you take for granted. We didn't have an accurate inventory of all that. We didn't have, and we had put out an RFP to get somebody to come in and tell us where all those assets were, but it was almost $600,000, and we were arguing over redlining of the contract about who actually owned the data. So that wasn't a good solution for us. Our Department of Water and Sewerage, we have catch basins that they need to find and clean. We have 38,000 fire hydrants that we approximately knew where they were, but we actually send our fire department out through November to April to go test the fire hydrants to make sure they're working. So we needed really good precision about where they were. And then our engineering department really needed precise data. The data they had was old, and it was only accurate down to 2 inches. So a little bit about Detroit. It's big. It's about 142 square miles big. You can put San Francisco, Boston, and Manhattan in the footprint of Detroit and have room to spare. We had 40,000 vacant and abandoned structures in Detroit. This map is showing you completed residential demolitions that we have done throughout the city starting in 2014. So we've done almost 18,000 of them, but we have another 18,000 to go. So it's a lot of information. So when I talked about the physical infrastructure changing a lot, you can see why. So we're on track to get all the vacant and abandoned structures demolished in the next 3 years, but there was a lot of concern about having these buildings out there. So the mayor said, well, what can we do in the meantime? So he sent out a board up brigade. So we had returning citizens who went out, took pictures of the structure, put boards over it, and then took pictures of that structure. And then we said there had to be a better way to do that. So I have some really fun people on my team who came up with a better way to do this. So they were able to put together this van, and we won the Mayor's Innovation Competition for this because we crossed so many departments together who needed this information. They were able to put together this van and put basically LiDAR, which gives you height and density and all kinds of good imagery so you can inspect tree canopy health, rooftop health, and those. And we did 360-degree pictures so that we could take a look, because as we tear down all these structures, it's very dynamic, and so we wanted folks to be able to see that. So this just gives you a before and after. This is the vacant in a building, and it came down, and you can see the profound impact that has on the physical built environment of the city of Detroit. The other thing that we were able to do was we were able to do machine learning so that we could find where our assets were. So we trained through machine learning to find all of our assets. We know where they are now. When we drive twice a year, leaf on and leaf off, and then we can figure out if there's a change in status of the asset. So if we expected to see a stop sign somewhere and it wasn't there, we would know that. All the pictures of the boarded up houses, as we're driving through, the machine learning will say, hey, we think there's a house that needs to be boarded up, or there was a house that was boarded up that is no longer boarded up. And finally, we were able to get our engineering accuracy to 1 centimeter. So that means that our engineering department, along with our assessors who does property assessment, and our buildings and safety who does inspections of houses, could actually pull up all that imagery, have the LiDAR, and actually do very accurate reviews of things without having to send somebody. We could do that initial review without having to send somebody into the streets. And then if we needed to send somebody out to do that, we were able to do that. So that's just a quick overview of what our project looked like, and I'll turn it over to Renee.
Thank you. So thank you, fellow CIOs, with your challenges. I'm here to kind of give you a little insight into Hitachi Vantara's challenge and what we're doing about it. But before I do that, I think I want to give you just a little heritage in Hitachi Vantara. You might recognize the Hitachi name. That's the heritage of about 117 years of technology innovation, really headquartered and birthed in Tokyo, Japan. And in that heritage, through all the 800 sister companies that make up this conglomerate, so 800, energy, elevators. We're a technology and data platform company. We have nuclear power. We have autonomous vehicle. Across all of that, there's a common theme that really resonates based on my fellow colleagues who've been speaking up here and really the event today, which is we have a concept called the double bottom line. And it's 117 years old. And what it means is that companies, it's fine to have a healthy bottom line financially, but it has to take a second seat to having a double bottom line for society. Your healthy bottom line has to be in support of solving society's biggest challenges: environmental, health, poverty, education. And so I think you heard today from my predecessors, one talked about really Detroit. There's a theme there. Did you hear all the things that were in what was being done to help Detroit? And those 40,000 plus abandoned houses? It's data. We heard LiDAR, right? It's a technology, video surveillance type data. We have physical data. Then we had from the NCAA, lots of stats, basketball stats. There's also a sense of having urgency to get at that data quickly to find value. So, summary, my challenge in the world of technology and 800 sister companies that we're trying to bring all that data together is how do you do it quickly, monetize it, bring it valuable to my peers, the CEOs in the C-suite, to the employees and our customers rapidly, without a lot of geek speak. So for me to do that, I want to give you just a little sense of how rapidly chaotic we are in the world that we live in with data. And as I said, it kind of permeates the theme this morning. So my two esteemed CIO colleagues have spoken for about 10 minutes. And in that 10 minutes, 2 million devices have been connected to the internet. That's my phone, that's Ring, the smart security system at home, that's your smart refrigerator, that's a cell phone, that's Alexa, whatever. So that's great, that's the device. But the thing that is challenging all of us in one way or another, it's not the devices. It's the 27 million gigabytes of data that were created in that 10 minutes. And then you can extrapolate from there about how much is created daily. And then the last statistic, just to kind of give you a sense of our challenge, mine and everyone else's, is 90% of the world's data was created in the last 3 to 4 years. So just a sense of, and it's all digital for the most part. So my challenge is to do what I just said. How do we get to the data and make it actionable? For me to do that, I want to introduce you to my latest new hire. Her name's Anna. Anna stands for Astute, Autonomous and Astute Helper. She supports 112 languages. She leverages some of our own technologies. She's an infrastructuralist technology. We support Google, Azure, AWS Cloud, Alibaba. And she gets smarter hour by hour. Now, the way Anna came about was last year. She was hired in August of 2018 as a skunk work project. It took about 6 months to bring it together. And the challenge I had was steeped in all of us at Hitachi is double bottom line. But as CIOs all know, as all of you know, we don't have infinite budgets. Matter of fact, you do more with less every single year. So my challenge was how to make my smart, brilliant IT department have free time to focus on the bigger, more wicked society's problems with the power of data while they still had to keep the lights on and the servers running. And so it's a concept called shift left. How do I move some of the redundant, monotonous work to the left? So I hired Anna. Anna doesn't care. So what Anna does today really simply answers some of the most mundane things on the service desk. I have a service desk, supports 100 countries, multiple languages, and every single country has, I forgot my password, how do I connect a VPN, how do I create a distribution list, how do I sign up for how do I reserve a conference room, how do I connect to a virtual server. I mean, there's tens and tens of these really basic, nobody wants to answer those questions more than once a day, if ever, again. Anna does that. How does Anna do that? Anna does that because she can aggregate data from very disparate systems, video, other chat bots. So she becomes the persona for us here at Hitachi Vantara. Not only that, she gets to become the persona for Hitachi. And so, just as an example, to move on to the next slide, there's Anna. She's going to talk, but she talks in 112 languages today. She is going to give you a little bit of how this works in Japan. So, is it valuable? There's some stats to explain the value that we see. And right now, Anna answers in about 80% accuracy. But as I said, she gets better based on more data sources and more interactions. If you don't interact with Anna, just like if you don't interact with Alexa at home, she doesn't get very smart. The more you interact with her, the better she gets. So in this particular case, this is text-based, so someone can voice to Anna in any language of the 112 that are supported, and she'll text it back to you. So in this case, the little video I'm going to run here in a second is my Japan liaison, Yoko Suzuki. She's in Japan, trying to get her laptop up and running, and the Outlook browser doesn't want to open.
アウトルックが起動しない。どうもありがとう、アナ。
Thank you very much, Anna. So what that says, for those of you who can read Japanese, good for you. I had to have it translated. But really, Anna went out to our English-based, so again, we are an English-based company. English is the common language at the 800 subsidiaries that we have at Hitachi. Went out and scoured all of those in a much quicker fashion than it would take to do multiple Google searches from wiki pages and whatever as an employee or as a service desk person, and gave her 3 options. 3 options to try. In addition to that, if that didn't work, she has the following options to automatically get connected to a live chat session with a service desk person who can help her live, or can we just log that ticket and have someone call her back at a more convenient time, which means they're going to take all this, Anna will take all this information and put it into our ServiceNow platform, log a ticket, and then let her know what her service ticket number is. That's the future. Now, what's next with the power of data? We talked about it. It's about data at your fingertips quickly. The challenge for all of us is actionable insights as fast as possible. My peers in the C-suite have no patience for gobbledygook geek speak, and they want to know value in their data quickly, kind of like at halftime for the NCAA. What did we learn in the first half that we can turn and use in the second half? So in my challenge is the blurring of the lines is not just about the data, it's about departments. So if I think about IT, HR, finance, marketing, sales, R&D, the lines of where technology stop and business begin continue to blur. Think of all the cloud solutions we have out there. O365, Salesforce.com, SAP and Oracle now are offering only cloud solutions in the future. Workday. If I were an employee, the biggest challenge is I don't know which service desk to call to get an answer to keep me productive. Is it a technical problem? Is it a how-to problem because I don't know how to work the new HR system? Is it network? Is it my service provider cloud? What is it? So the challenge and the future that we look for is to take something like Ask IT, Ask HR, and turn it into Ask Anna. So you let the Annas of the world become the personas for all productivity improvement for employees, for customers and partners as well. And so my future and what it looks like is we get that shift left to happen so that we can go back to solving some of the society's biggest challenges with the most brightest people that we have in our groups and in our companies. Thank you.
Thanks to all the panelists, really interesting presentations. And I have some questions that may or may not pertain to those particular projects, but I wanted to start out with an issue that some of the other CIOs and IT professionals might run into, which is when you have a project like this, or maybe another project, how did you get buy-in from the stakeholders in your organization for this? And was it ever a problem to get the right funding for it or get enough funding for it? And maybe we could start out with Judd.
Okay. For us, we had kind of the burning platform with the RPI that was 30 years old. So there was a desire to move off of it. We did face a lot of different obstacles, mainly because from the business unit side, they didn't understand what it was. What is machine learning? And so a lot of it was really just about communicating and really not talking tech speak. So something I would say to everyone in this audience, if you're ever with a business unit, if the words like deep learning neural network ever come out of your mouth, you need to stop. Even using the word machine learning, you might want to check yourself. You really need to talk business and you need to talk results. The business unit doesn't understand technology, so you're there to understand the technology, and this is how we're going to apply it to solve a business problem. For us, we had a lot of that misunderstanding, and kind of a fun little anecdote of what really bought us a lot of credibility was that last year, after we did all of our analysis, we decided we're going to do a machine learning demo, and we're going to post the results on NCAA.com right before the tournament started to see how is this going to line up with how things play out. Well, last year, if anyone was paying attention, there was a school called UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, that upset #1 ranked Virginia. It had never happened before. When we did our demo, we had the results, we posted it online, and our results showed UMBC defeating Virginia. Again, never happened before. We all thought there's no way this is going to happen. The machine learning model is messed up. We took down those results after like 30 seconds of it being online because we thought it just wasn't going to happen. Turns out it did happen. And that actually brought a lot of credibility with internal staff, and then when we were selling it to the other basketball coaches on the selection committee on the validity of our results.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Beth, tell me, this was a contest that you worked on, but tell me, was there, you put together a plan and presented it, and then it won the contest. Tell me some of the business translation you needed to do in that case.
I think anytime we have the ability to pull in multiple departments and there's shared pain around an issue, or we see that there's a potential solution that might have multiple business unit applications, it made it stronger. I also was on the voting committee and I didn't recuse myself, but hey. So I think what we were able to do, and what I didn't say, is that my team went out and strapped GoPros to their car roof racks and drove at 5 miles an hour down a commercial corridor to prove to our stakeholders that we could deliver something that would be of value to them. And then once they bought in and saw the value, and we were able to show them what LiDAR was able to do for engineering and all that, then they were fully on board because they were each paying for these things out of their department. We were able to aggregate. We won the competition, but then since then it's been aggregated in my department. And so we've supplanted and taken costs away from them. So it lowered their operating costs, so they were able to use that money to do other things.
Excellent. And Renee, please tell me about the challenges with your project.
Sure. So a little bit around Skunk Works is probably what got us funded. And to Judd's point, if any of the gobbledygook of ML, AI, blah, blah, blah comes out of your mouth and you try to explain that to your business colleagues, you might as well just kind of get up and excuse yourself from the room. So the answer was, everyone knows there's value in data. Renee, we're saving all this data. What's in there? It's some great thing to help me sell more or make more or save more. It's complicated. It's not easy. So you start with something small. You start with something that I know you could actually impact the entire organization. Everyone loves or hates the IT service desk. Face it. They don't answer fast enough. They don't have the right answer. They don't escalate the thing fast enough. So for me, that was a horizontal, I can touch everybody at the same time and improve productivity. And then, of course, I go to my poor service desk leaders and say, okay, what's the worst possible question you guys get on your service desk? And of course, I mined my own data and found the top 10 were things like I forgot my password, my laptop doesn't work, I lost my iPhone, blah, blah, blah. So who wants to answer those questions? So trying to inspire my own team. So we just basically did it ourselves. And after a while, you launched Anna. This little icon started to show up when you log into our service portal. And people get curious. We're a technology company, and they start interacting with it. So you kind of woo them to the table, and they don't even know that they're helping solve the problem, because as they interact with Anna, she gains more knowledge and data. So over time, hey, can Anna do this? Hey, can Anna be part of my group? Hey, can Anna also absorb this data repository that was some shadow IT repository that no one wanted to confess to me they had? All of a sudden now is a repository they want me to manage, and have Anna start to gobble up the data and ingest it and bring insight to light. So for me, it was starting small, nothing too sexy, but pretty common problem for everybody, and then demonstrating the business value really fast.
Excellent, thanks. And so I'm wondering, moving along, if you could tell us about a challenge in this project or another project that you didn't anticipate, and how you handled it. And can we start out with Judd again, please?
Sure. Honestly, for us, I kind of alluded to it already. It's just the explaining what you're actually going to do and how it's going to work, and really taking these like highly complex technologies and trying to breaking it down and saying, okay, because for them, the business units, it's a magic box, and they don't understand how it works. So a lot of it is just that. And then when you get a lot of these people, especially when you're like kind of working with the selection committee and their coaches and our athletic directors, and they have no idea basically what machine learning is, to then say, okay, we're going to do this, and you have to trust us. You have to trust that we're going to get you an accurate result. And then of course, their natural question is, well, how are you going to do that? And then you're like, well, okay, how do I answer that question? Because I can't get too detailed, but you want them to be comfortable with it, so you have that credibility and you have that buy-in from them. So really, it was just that communication that was the real obstacle. And then, of course, always is make sure you have the right data, you have the clean data, and you can actually do that analysis. That was just kind of the long pole in the tent for us.
Makes sense. Beth?
Ours was a lot easier. It was finding somebody who would drive the van. I mean, and where can that person take bathroom breaks? It was, you're driving, the city's huge, and so you can only cover so much of it at one time, and you have really expensive. So that van all in was probably about $300,000 with all the equipment on it, and then all the equipment inside to record it. So it was a fairly practical thing. I think the other thing was that we really underestimated the compute power that we needed to process, because we would post images within 24 hours. And so public safety kept saying, I think our internet's going really slow at night. And I'm like, nah. And then it became obvious that we were sucking all their bandwidth to do all this computing. And then the third thing was getting the data out quickly enough. And so we committed to really turning it around quickly, so that our fellow stakeholders could see that there really actually was a product.
Renee?
Yeah, so the challenge that was probably most surprising, I call it my hearts and minds challenge. It wasn't the technology, but as you started to roll it out, if you remember, I said Anna represents about 150 to 200 hours of productivity work per month. That's about the equivalent of a person. And so while my service desk agents were so excited not to have to answer another I forgot my password question, they also kind of got a little concerned of, okay, a bunch of Anna's going to be just terminals sitting there instead of me someday. So that was one. And it hadn't even occurred to me that way, not because it's the data that was being produced and the work that she was doing was just so mundane. But again, change management and the hearts and minds there was one challenge. The other one was the need to have the tool, the widget, the persona of Anna be perfect before you launch it. Well, the whole deal with the chatbot is it learns as it goes. And so our Japanese mindset, it's our heritage, They're very, very precision and engineering focused. You don't release something until it's perfect, and then it lasts forever. So trying to educate on, no, this is agile sprints of value, good is good enough, 80%, 70%, and we'll make adjustments as we go, was a really interesting multicultural language conversation to get everyone on board. Now they get it, and they see the learning happens hourly or by minute. So once they see it, to your point, once somebody sees it, then they get it. But it's really hard to get that first little bit of momentum.
Excellent. And you mentioned that there's really a huge data component to all these projects. I'm wondering if you felt like you had the right talent on staff when you got started with the project. And if not, how you sort of trained or got people up to speed or even hired people. Judd?
I think for us, the NCAA IT shop is pretty small. We have 50 to 60 folks if you count our contractors, and you see the scope of the work that we have. So for me, the expectation, and also I guess it depends on the technology, is that I don't expect people to be out there understanding the minute, the small levels of AI, but that's really just because of our culture and the size of our organization. So typically what I'm looking for in someone who would be on my staff would be someone who can pick up the technical knowledge, but understands the application of the technology and understands the business side of things. Because honestly, technology is not there for technology. Technology is there to enhance the business so we can all grow, whether that's revenue or whatever your metric is. And then for us, if we do look at high level technology, like what does machine learning do? We don't have to fully understand how it does it. And then we go find vendors or partners who are experts and SMEs in that area to help guide us through implementation. And then depending on the complexity of the technology, then we kind of go and decide, okay, we need to train someone up to be our machine learning expert or AI expert. It just kind of depends on the technology. But for us, it's really just dictated by the size of our organization.
Great. And you had such a huge hardware component to your project, too. I'm curious about that as well in terms of talent.
You know, we've one of the really great things about the city going in and out of bankruptcy and emerging on the other side is that we got to redo all of our job descriptions and pay a competitive wage. So I was competing against Ford and GM and everybody else for Quicken Loans for talent. So we were able to do that and also change our job descriptions. So I was able to bring in an emerging technology team. So that van was a result of some folks on the emerging technology team and our GIS team who said, we have a better way to do this. So we were lucky in that instance that we did have, and a lot of my folks teach. And so there's a College for Creative Studies in Detroit. So a lot of my folks teach there. And so they are interacting with students. And so we do a lot of kind of experimentation.
Excellent. And you have a natural language processing element to your project. Did you have that in-house or?
Well, part of the benefit of being one of 800 subsidiaries to a multi-billion-dollar entity is the good news is they're there somewhere. The challenge is finding them. And even within Hitachi Vantara, some of the talent was there, but they were in unique places. Example being, we do a lot with sensor data. Very much, you have LiDAR and you have sensor data on supply chain, robotic arms and so forth as part of manufacturing process as an example. So we've had a lot of folks working assembly line and supply chain for many years. We have probably 4 generations of employees in our employee population. The interesting part is those folks that know that supply chain robotic arm process that have been with us 20, 30 years actually are the folks that understand the sensor data. If you ever looked at OT sensor data, it's just gibberish for most of us. They understood it. So we found some talent, subject matter expert in a particular line of business, supply chain, manufacturing, what have you, that also has technology, kind of that SME that Jed was talking about. They just have a new role now. Now the flip side is, yes, do we want more data scientists? Do we need more data scientists that understand algorithmic protocols? Yes, and I think every one of us is clamoring for more of that globally. We have an amazing large facility in Hyderabad, India, and some of probably my top talent is graduating from the universities there, and I use that location as well as one in Europe in Krakow, Poland, to help kind of augment what is in Silicon Valley a race to the top for who has the most data scientists, and that tends to be a bit of a challenge still.
Excellent. And related question, and this might be one of the last questions we have today. Everyone's talking about how hard it is to find people with certain skills. If there are career-minded people here, what skills should they be pursuing? And what skills do you think you're going to be hiring for in the next year, the next 5 years or so? What is on your mind?
So again, when we kind of changed our hiring practice when I came on board 6 years ago, I need people who I can put in front of my business units. I need someone who can understand the technology, they know it well, but then they can go out and talk with our business units, because if you're not personable enough to do that, it's going to reflect poorly on us, and we're not going to be able to create the solutions that our organization needs. And then we're also looking for people who will take initiative, someone who will go out and be bold and identify a problem and say, hey, look, I want to do a demo on my own just to see if this concept works, and then take it forward. So I'm looking for more of those soft skills rather than so much on the hard technical skills.
Excellent.
It's been a real shift in government. My mayor is very data focused, and so you are seeing more and more data scientists within government, and so we're looking for that. And then a lot of, as Judd alluded to, the business analysts and people who do business process reengineering, because we never want to just automate a bad system. We want to redo how the system works and the process should flow. So those are the things that we're looking for.
Yep. So I think that's a common theme. Probably my most valuable role that has been part of our company's transformation over the last couple of years. I call them strategic business partners, and they're an IT. They report to me, but they really sit as strategic trusted advisors to the C-suite, CFO, CHRO, and they have a passion for that line of business and their technology, and they synthesize it in a storytelling way for business value, as Judd and Beth both said. Those are critical roles. Where do they come from? They're usually retired road warriors from consulting houses, or they've actually been a technology geek for a long time and really saw the light to say, oh, I get what this does now for the business, and they just have a passion to learn the other piece of that. So I would say that's one skill set that is going to just be invaluable going forward. I'd say the other one is probably, I think the quote is that kids are in school now today learning about getting trained up on technology and innovation for jobs that haven't been invented yet. So it's a very hard answer sometimes to say, other than what are the qualities you look for. And what I tell my summer interns that we hire is diversity of thought helps solve business problems better than anything else. So diversity, inclusion, creativity. STEM programs are now becoming STEAM. The A stands for arts, the creative aspect. And even some, I think MIT is using STREAM. And the R stands for reading and writing. So even further takes us down a creative mindset as it relates to engineering and capabilities of storytelling, again, for business value. I think those will be very high in demand skills for anybody coming into this industry.
Excellent. Great answers. Thank you. Everyone, I'd like to ask you to help me thank these wonderful CIOs for coming out and talking to us today. Thank you.